Velites, thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. Africans, we are only good at fighting among ourselves instead of thinking about how to resolve the conflict between us. Some time back, Nigeria Chief Army Defense Staff went to Niger to meet with our all-in-all, the Savior, the Protector, the Unifier, the Messiah, the King of Kings, the most loved, Abdurrahman Chiani, and the defense staff of Niger to think about how they are going to come together, to work together, to resolve their differences and to be able to protect their countries against these terrorist activities. And finally, we saw that, according to our all-in-all Abdurrahman Chiani, Nigeria was sent there by France so that they could learn their tactics, and finally, things didn't turn out well. Today, the Army Chief of Staff is out there again saying that Nigeria is in danger simply because they have left their borders opened and they have to do everything possible to fence their borders so that the terrorist activities that are ongoing in the Sahel, Niger, wouldn't come into Nigeria. That Pakistan and other countries only had peace when they fenced their borders. So if Nigeria will have peace from what is happening in Nigeria, Boko Haram and other things, they have to first fence their border against Burkina Faso, Benin and the other things. We know as for those ones, these people stationed these terrorists to be used against Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso. So that they have to do that. If they don't do that, they will never have peace. And one thing that baffles me is Nigeria is quick in pointing finger at Niger, Burkina, and Mali. What about the Boko Haram activities that are worrying these people?
16 years we've been fighting Boko Haram. How have they been surviving? Who has been funding them? These are questions we should ask ourselves. Where are they getting the fuel they're getting? They're getting from us. We have commercial drivers that will go and take full tank, go out, go and siphon fuel and give them. Sometimes they have pre-arranged locations. They siphon fuel in jerrycans, dig holes and drop it and phone them and tell them where the fuel. These are the people that keep them going. So why are we doing this to ourselves? What is the motive? Are you going to be happy if your country fails? You want to be a refugee or an IDP somewhere else? Border management is very critical. I've had countries, because of the level of insecurity they had to fence their borders. I know sometimes when you mention, people say, no, it's impossible. Pakistan fenced 1,350 kilometer border with Afghanistan. That was the only time they had peace. Saudi Arabia and Iraq, 1,400 kilometers fenced completely. Can we start thinking of fencing our borders? We have 1,500 kilometers with Niger Republic, 1,900 kilometers with Cameroon. Chad is there. All over us, surrounded by Francophone countries, and the Sahel is heating up. Gentlemen, if we don't do anything, when the Sahel falls, it is Nigeria that everybody is interested in. Because they believe Nigeria is huge, Nigeria is big, Nigeria is rich. And that is what we should start thinking about. How do we secure fully and take control of our borders? It is critical for our survival. It's critical for our sovereignty. We must not shy away from these things. It might be expensive. It will be penny wise, pound foolish if we don't. We must stand up to be counted together as Nigeria for Nigeria. As I conclude, let me once again commend the Director General and the CEO of Voice of Nigeria for the foresight to actualize the important and timely initiative. Its ongoing innovation within the Voice of Nigeria, such as the expansion of Voice Business, you have equally failed. And if your security forces fail, especially your armed forces, I don't know which country you will have to stand with. First and foremost, we must look at ourselves as Nigerians. And nobody will change Nigeria if not Nigerians. If you sit down to think that any other person will come from somewhere and liberate your country, then you should think twice. So that is why it's very important. 40 citizens, renewed agenda citizens. Citizens make up the country, and it is citizens that will uplift the country to where they want it to be. If we do not do that, then the country will continue to fail. But this country will not fail, because God has blessed this country. If you remember some years back, Some countries have predicted that 2015 Nigeria was going to pack up. This is 2025, 10 years later, we're still standing strong and still moving forward. We will continue to shame all those that don't mean us well. I'm standing here today because I have the privilege of being born in Nigeria. I had the privilege of attending my primary secondary school in Nigeria. I went to Nigerian Defense Academy. Vice Admiral Gambo were the ones that brought us up at the academy. When we graduated from MBA, we met generals like Lieutenant General Buratai. My first contact with him was when he was commandant of Nigerian Army School of Infantry, then as a brigadier general and I was a colonel. Gradually he became the chief of army staff and developed and expanded the Nigerian armed forces because of commitments. I think people don't really understand that the military is a family. And our family transcends just friendship. It goes down to family line. We find that mostly we know our families, we know our children, we know our parents. That is how we grew up. And so mentorship in the military is unique because it's continuous. Everyone with the retired personnel that here has played major roles in our lives, me particularly. Just support your government, because without your support, it's not possible. National security, citizenship, everybody has a role to play. It is when we come together to uphold this that this country will thrive, not allowing the enemy to bring into gaps between us. Boko Haram started because we protected them. They started as a small group, and if it had been nipped in the bud, we probably wouldn't have gotten to where we are today. The Lakrawas came in, we brought them in, and we said they are our friends and their families until they started attacking us. The message here is when you grow a monster, he grows beyond you and wants to take more from you. So we must learn to say no to monsters. Any evil one that means by planning any evil against this country must never ever be supported.
And he was even asking, how are these people getting fuel, food, and other things, and weapons, and whatever? That it is possible. Nigeria, you have money. Now, when we look at this big Nigeria, the big economy, the riches in Nigeria, if you don't do this, you will never have peace. You those who are crying that you don't have food to eat in Nigeria and you are hungry, that is because of your border. If they're able to fence it, all your problems will be solved. These people know the real truth about what is happening in Africa, and that the Sahel, the terrorist activities that are ongoing, we know according to our all these ones are sponsored. And not that the African leader don't know the root cause of these terrorist activities that are happening in Africa. They are very much aware. If you have these military bases everywhere that we go, here and there, foreign military bases, what are they doing here? Are we at war? Yet the African leader will always close the eye to these things and point fingers at Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, simple because they have decided to move out of oppression. Some of us don't even know that we are not free, and some don't even understand why the Africans should be free and why we are preaching for our total sovereignty. So with Boko Haram, is it Niger that brought Boko Haram into Nigeria or Burkina or Mali? Why is it that the African leader will never stop lying to himself? Why won't you tackle the root cause of these problems? Why must you continue to be deceiving other people? And there are people who buy into it. But the truth is, it is not because the border is open. That is why we are seeing all these things. These people are giving this idea to Nigeria so that Africa, as we are trying, doing everything possible to open our borders so that we can mingle, the borders will remain closed, because the more they close the border, the more it's benefiting Yellow Pawpaw. And these people are always making sure their interests will be served. And we are the ones that are doing everything possible to make things easier for Yellow Pawpaw when they come into our continent. Till date, the African, this 21st century, they've realized that we are all crying and calling for a borderless Africa. So they have to now put pressure on these leaders to start building borders, walls, so that we can never have that borderless Africa that we are yearning for. And we have to all rise up against that. These leaders cannot always be serving the interests of the West, pretending they are for us. You're asking us where these people are getting these things. The weapons that sometimes you trace them to Yellow Purpose country. How did they manage to come here? African leaders still see themselves as enemies, and they still see that they are going through this because of the other person without trying to acknowledge and accept the truth. And together we stand to build a better Africa. If we continue to be leaving ourselves in these people's hands, I wonder what the generation of our children is going to be, because these people have vowed that they will never do anything in their power to give us the better Africa we are yearning for, because their agenda is to make sure whatever Yellow Purple wants keep happening in Africa. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free, and we must not leave our future and the generations to come into these old ones that have done nothing for themselves rather than to be puppets to the hindrance of Africa. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world, in Africa, West Africa, and in Nigeria.